Washington Press. We're pretty much all over the place, and love our listeners, even my very special MAGA supporters, ladies and gentlemen. And we appreciate you being a part of the show, and we have a lot to get to today. Wow, what a very busy weekend. Nancy Mace, a woman, sadly, who was the victim of rape, has no problem endorsing and supporting a liable rapist. George Stephanopoulos is getting a little bit of pushback from the far righties out there, which I think is insane. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. We might get to the Oscars a little later as well. Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us. The pastor turned life coach is going to be joining us. Talk a little bit about that. And, yeah, we are going to be getting to this Katie Britt stuff, which is just getting worse and worse, it seems like, by the hour. Katie Britt made an appearance on Fox News, and she actually made the situation worse by doubling down on her hypocrisy, lying, and stupidity. And she was called out for all that stuff, rightfully so, fact-checked. So we're going to get to all that. We have a lot to talk about today on the show, and it's also one of the most interactive shows in the country. I think that's very fair to say. We take a lot of phone calls here, and, we're going to have some fun today. It is Monday, and that means the residential PTL liberal is joining us and gracing us with his presence. We'll see how angry he is today on a level of 1 to 10. My producer said he's only a 3.5 today. But once we get a couple MAGA callers, I think we'll get him going a little bit. Chris Wynn joining us in studio. What's going on, Chris?
Going good, Brian. Another busy weekend, of course, here in Las Vegas. And you mentioned it, maybe we're going to talk about it. We're definitely going to talk about it. It was Oscar night last night, one of the biggest nights in entertainment. And so certainly there were a couple storylines that came out of that. So there's no question that we will be hitting on that with or without Nicole, hopefully with Nicole, obviously. But, a whole lot went down. And, of course, you did your show on Friday. But there were some interesting things that went down on Friday night, of course, in the world of politics. And we will be diving full steam into those as well, too.
There was also some male nudity at the Oscars. I know Chris is chomping at the bits to talk about that. So we will get to that a little bit later on in the program. Speaking of the Oscars, and maybe somebody who wasn't there that didn't receive an Oscar, sadly, was Katie Britt, the raving lunatic and the Republican response, which she's been certainly people have gone after her for it, including myself. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it was the Republican response to the State of the Union of Joe Biden, which was absolutely ridiculous. She's sitting there in the kitchen, and we talked about it on Friday with Eric Swalwell, Congressman. And this was just a little part of it, but now we're learning a little bit more. Not only was there blatantly bad acting going on, bad faith arguments, sitting there in a kitchen, all the bad logistics, and she sounded like a raving lunatic, but now we're learning much of her speech was based on a lie. Here's Katie herself talking about a person that she spoke with that was sexually assaulted. Have a listen to this.
I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me. She had been sex trafficked by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
Well, here's the problem with this story, and I'm not going to play any more of it because it's based on a lie. First of all, I don't doubt the fact this horrible story at this woman at the age of 12 was raped. But as the facts come out about this story, she makes it sound like this woman just confided with her. No, she's made this public, this story, for decades. Yes, that's right. I said decades. It didn't happen a month ago or a year ago or 10 years ago. Now, it's a terrible story. It also didn't happen in the United States of America. Now, I don't care where it happens. Sexual assault is sexual assault, and my heart goes out to this woman. It's a terrible story. But again, Kate Britt was trying to make it sound like it happened during the Joe Biden administration. Well, guess what? First of all, this woman has made this story public for the last 20 years, or at least the last 10 years. She didn't just confide in Katie Britt, because that's what Britt made it out to be. That's number one. Number two, it happened in Mexico, not the United States of America. Number three, shocker alert, it didn't happen under the Joe Biden administration. In fact, it happened under the George W. Bush administration. It was a blatant lie, but you won't hear Katie Britt own up to that. Now, what makes this even worse is she's talking about sexual assault, lying about it, while supporting the sexual liable abuser himself in Donald Trump. Now, Chris, I have a lot of reaction, and even reaction from people on the far right, including Charlie Kirk. The white supremacist himself, uneducated Charlie Kirk, even said, I'm sure Kate Britt is sweet mom in person. By the way, I doubt that. But even he said this speech is not what we need Joe Biden just declared war on America, and Katie Britt is talking like she's hosting a cooking show, whispering about how Democrats don't get it. Now, I do have more reaction to give, but Chris, this entire argument that she was making and trying to blame Joe Biden for all the issues at the border, even a woman now, but at the time a young girl who was raped, she's trying to blame Democrats and Joe Biden for it. And it's all based on a lie. It happened under a Republican president. You can't make this stuff up.
A couple other tidbits, too, Brian, that you left out. It didn't take place in the United States.
No, I said
it
that.
took place in Mexico.
Yep.
Okay, so it wasn't even in the United States of America. So even pinning it on the Bush administration is ridiculous, right? So, but to make any correlation with the Biden administration, it's only par for the course for the hypocrisy that a lot of Republicans engage in. The projection is over the top, man. Okay, when it came to Britt's response after the State of the Union. Basically, like 60-70% of what she was saying was projection. It was projection. She was complaining and talking about Democrats in ways that Republicans and herself included engage in, which is misrepresent the facts and the situation.
Right.
Okay, that was not on par at all. That situation, that horrific rape that took place with that woman, yes, who's now a woman, was a kid back in the early 2000s, okay, in Mexico, all right, has no correlation and nothing to do with the Biden administration.
Right.
And so I'll cap off my comments by saying this. She made it worse because after afterwards, she goes on Fox News and made comments as well, too.
Yeah, we're going
and
to get to that.
So, like, it's just, look, Katie Britt was supposed to be a rising star in the Republican Party. That has taken a monstrous hit after what took place in that response to the State of the Union, because it was an absolute clown show in every aspect that you can imagine.
Let's be clear.
It did not, and it was absolutely disaster. And it wasn't just myself and left-wing Democrats and Brian Shapiro, independent, leans left, that were criticizing her. It was her fellow Republicans and talking heads.
Let's
on the
be
right.
clear. She's a rising idiot. That's number one. As I mentioned before, it didn't happen in America. It happened in Mexico. And we will get to her response on Fox News, which did make things much worse for her. But I do want to play you some clips, reaction from people that I respect, some people that I don't necessarily respect, but people on the right. But let's start off with Joe Walsh, somebody who comes on this show all the time. I love Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate. Joe Walsh, his immediate reaction on CNN to Katie Britt lying when we all found out that she was lying about this sexual assault that allegedly took place when this woman was 12 years old, and I believe that to be true, but trying to pin it on Joe Biden.
Well, she wasn't lying about the sexual assault. The sexual assault took place. She was misrepresenting the situation and tying it to the Biden administration.
I understand that. I believe, as I said before, I believe that these sexual assaults took place. But here's Joe Walsh's reaction to it.
The issue is a United States senator out and out lied. Alex, you're right. She blamed Biden for this. It happened years before Joe Biden was president. She said it happened at our border in this country. It happened in Mexico. She lied. I mean, we get into so much nuance around these sorts of things. Quit with the nuance. She sat in front of the American people and she lied to us about a very serious problem. That's despicable.
I could not agree with that more. And anybody should have the same thoughts that a Joe Walsh has. I completely agree 150%. Then there's Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was asked on one of the networks over the weekend about Katie Britt's performance or lack thereof. And here's what Pete Buttigieg had to say about it.
And you mentioned that, this story that was suggested to be a reflection on President Biden turns out to have dated from the Bush administration and happened in a different country. One thing that gets me thinking about is since the beginning of the Bush administration, there have been 3 major bipartisan attempts to have comprehensive immigration reform or do something big and meaningful about the border. I think 2006, 2013, and now 2024. Will 2024 go down in history as yet another failed attempt at bipartisan compromise, or will congressional Republicans follow the lead of their own negotiators and the President of the United States and actually do something about it?
Well said, Pete Buttigieg. But Chris, this might surprise you. Somebody who seems to be a brown noser lately for Donald Trump and somebody on the far right. I would consider Megyn Kelly somebody on the far right. But even Megyn Kelly was going after Katie Britt over the weekend. Listen to what Megyn Kelly had to say about this performance.
And I don't know what the F I saw. I agree with the people saying she looked like she was auditioning for a show on Lifetime. The drama, the fake affectation, the over-the-top portrayal of emotions I did not believe she was feeling at all. Her inauthenticity, it was totally cringe, as the kids would say.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with everything Megyn Kelly just said in that clip. But as Chris alluded to, Katie Britt had a chance at damage control. Now, I don't think she had much of a chance. She could have apologized. She said, look, I got my dates mixed up. This had nothing to do with Joe Biden. This was under the George W. Bush administration, but I still feel the same way about the border. I mean, she could have backtracked a little bit and maybe apologized for lying to the American people. It wasn't even misleading people. She flat out lied. And she's on Fox News, as Chris said earlier, with Shannon Bream. And to Shannon Bream's credit, she had to ask this question, even though it's Fox News. And she did, even though she wasn't really pressed on it. Have a listen to how Katie Britt responds to this question about basically lying to the American people about this horrible situation where this woman was repeatedly sexually assaulted at the age of 12. Have a listen to this.
Okay, but to be clear, the story that you relayed is not something that's happened under the Biden administration, that particular person.
Well, I very clearly said I spoke to a woman who told me about when she was trafficked when she was 12. So I didn't say a teenager. I didn't say a young woman, a grown woman, a woman when she was trafficked when she was 12. And so listening to her story, she is a victim's right advocate who is telling this is what drug cartels are doing. This is how they're profiting off of women. And it is disgusting. And so I am hopeful that it brings some light to it and we can actually do something about human trafficking and that's what the media actually decides to cover.
No. First of all, your entire platform with your ridiculous speech that SNL even did a skit about with Scarlett Johansson over the weekend because you're such an idiot, and the people that put you in a kitchen with your fake, really, Kirk Cameron is a better actor than you, and he's like the worst. I mean, that's number one. Number two, you never said when it happened. Just because you said I spoke to a woman, oh, well, I said I spoke to a woman, but it happened when it was 12. You didn't give dates. Your entire platform of your speech was blaming Joe Biden for everything and all the issues we have at the border. Yet you're so stupid that the one part that you had to bring up, you could have brought up anything that's happened at the border in the last 3 years. Maybe I wouldn't have agreed with it. Maybe I would have. You could have gotten any example on the last 3 years. And the one example that you decide to bring up was something that happened under a Republican president because you're a dope. You're a dope. And the people around you that wrote that speech for you, I hope it wasn't you, are also dopes. And the middle-aged men who were asked, boy, where should we put Katie? Where should we have her speak? Should she speak at a podium? Should she speak with her family in front of her house? Where should we have her speak? Should we have her speak at a diner? I don't know, with regular, everyday people, although I can't imagine there are many regular, everyday people that would support this lunatic. But anyway, no, let's sit her in a kitchen 10 feet behind her, a $10,000 refrigerator. You right-wing dopes you. And I spoke to a lot of Republicans, Chris, over the last several days, some staunch Republicans that are disgusted by where they put her even, the logistics. But forget about the logistics for a moment. She goes on Fox News and she has a chance to apologize. Not only does she not apologize, but she's acting like it's the media's fault. She blamed Joe Biden for everything. And the one specific example that she comes up with, about sexual assault that didn't happen in the United States of America, it happened in Mexico, and she's talking about third world countries. The one example she comes up with, interestingly enough, happened under a Republican president in George W. Bush. It is disgraceful. It is embarrassing. And you know it didn't go very well when even people like Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk and many other far right-wing lunatics on social media are saying it was embarrassing. You know why? Because they're right. It was. The Republicans don't have a platform. They have nothing to run on. And then, guess what? Another side bit, just a little fact that we've learned, Chris, is that Katie Britt was one of the MAGA Republicans that helped put together this bipartisan bill about the border. But what did Katie Britt do? She helped put the bill together, bipartisan, on the border. Katie Britt didn't vote for it. The same bill that she helped put together, she didn't vote for it. Why? Because she wears the Donald Trump knee pads. That's why. And she'll do absolutely anything that Donald Trump tells her to do. Maybe her husband doesn't want to hear that, but that's my personal opinion. She put together the bill, a bipartisan bill, and then she voted against it. That's all you need to know about Katie Britt, and that's all you need to know about these MAGA Republicans out there that are obsessed with our border and keep talking about our border, but yet don't do anything about it or do the opposite. They don't want Joe Biden to succeed. They don't want the United States of America to succeed. They don't want to fix any issues we have at the border unless there's a Republican that's president of the United States. Katie Britt, in closing, is an embarrassment to this country. She is absolutely a hypocrite and a liar, and every single attribute to her character is something that I would never support or vote for. You people in Alabama should be embarrassed by Katie Britt and the Supreme Court in your own state, by the way. And while all this stuff is going on and she wants to lecture us about rape, she is literally supporting a liable rapist.
Couple of takes on the comments that you made and also my response to what I just heard right there from Katie Britt and, of course, the response across the board with the right-wing media. Number one, in today's climate, in the MAGA sphere, as we call it, you can't apologize anymore, Brian. That is a no-no, all right? You're not going to hear Republican politicians that are still in office or running for office apologizing for anything because they take their cues from all things Donald J. Trump. And so apologies are out of the question. What she could have done there, I don't necessarily say she needed to go on Fox News and apologize, but set the record straight.
Right.
Clarify what it is you meant to say. You don't have to use the wording of an apology, but you do have to explain yourself, and you do have to kind of square that circle. And make us know that you're aware that situation has nothing to do with the Biden administration. Okay, that scenario that you put forth in that response to the State of the Union has nothing to do with the Biden administration at all. Number two, to your point about her being a part of this bipartisan bill, right? That basically was spearheaded by James Langford, right, of Oklahoma, and he was like the main Republican that was a big part of the conservative side of the bipartisan bill. All right, Republicans have remarkably short memories. What I mean by that is that they can't remember yesterday, because people like Katie Britt and other Republicans, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, are talking like Republicans had nothing to do with the bill. Right now, they're talking like it was just a bunch of left-wing liberals, bleeding heart Democrats that put together that bill, and Republicans just shot it down, which is not factually accurate again. So that you're dealing with that, and then you see that response by her when she doubles down the next day. It's textbook MAGA, and it is a clear indication that MAGA is alive and well right now.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't shocked, I guess, but was I disheartened? Do I understand the climate that we live in right now in America, and it is distressing to me? Absolutely. But that was just, again, par for the course for Republicans, where they want to just act like they don't remember what happened yesterday or the day before that.
Your entire platform is based on a lie, and let me be very clear about Katie Britt, and then we can move on. She supports a man that was found liable for sexual assault. The judge characterized it as rape, and she wants to lecture us about rape. That's number one. Katie Britt is the last person that I want to hear about rape victims. She pushes legislation that would force sexual assault victims, like in this story, to carry pregnancy to term, meaning it doesn't matter whether you're 12 or 80. if you are a rape victim and you're pregnant, you should be forced to have that rape baby because Katie Britt is a lunatic. She pushes legislation that would deny the victim in her own story safe haven into the U.S. because Katie Britt is a lunatic. She voted against the border bill, as we mentioned earlier, that she helped draft that would aid in the issues at the border because Katie Britt is a lunatic. And again, she's a liar. She blames President Biden for events during the Bush administration to make people think he's not doing anything. That's a lie, and it's not true. And, of course, the most important thing of it all is she misrepresented a trafficking survivor's sexual assault story to portray the border crisis. Now, while all this stuff is going on, Chris, and Katie Britt, in my opinion, unless you're a MAGA Republican, has ruined her political career, and the Republicans should be embarrassed. Donald Trump is doing it again, speaking of sexual assault, when it comes to E. Jean Carroll. Now, we already know that Trump has already been found liable for sexual abuse. I characterize it as rape the way the judge did. And he's already defamed her and been sued again.
And he's already been found responsible.
Right,
For
defamation.
for slander, basically.
So, Chris,
Yes,
guess what he did over the weekend?
Slander her again?
Yeah.
Shocker.
Here it is.
Shocker.
Here's Donald Trump talking about E. Jean Carroll again. He can't hold his mouth over the weekend.
Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond, 91 million, on a fake story, totally made up story. Think of it, 91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. 91 million. Based on false accusations made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about, didn't know, never heard of. I know nothing about her. She wrote a book, she said things. And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation. That's where it starts.
Yeah, you didn't.
Sometimes it's not.
You didn't just say she's crazy, and you didn't just say it's false. You said far more about her, called her a liar, mocked her and the name of her cat, and you said a lot more things that were proven in a courtroom. So once again, every word out of Donald Trump's mouth is a lie. He just can't keep his mouth shut, and I hope they continue to sue her or him. I hope they continue to go after him and continue to sue him. Now, Chris, I think it's a very important topic. I think you would agree with me that Donald Trump is a liable rapist, and yet there are Republican women out there that support him. Now, it doesn't matter, whether, in my opinion, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, no matter where you stand on the policies or whether you can't stand Joe Biden and his policies. To me, that's completely irrelevant. Nancy Mace did an interview yesterday with George Stephanopoulos. Now, I don't care that George Stephanopoulos worked under the Bill Clinton, administration. That's irrelevant to the question that George asked. So here's what I want to do, Chris, and I want you to respond to it first. Here's George Stephanopoulos interviewing Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace is the victim of rape, which I wish that wasn't the case. It's horrible. She was the victim of this sexual assault when she was 16 years old. Now, you would think, Chris, a person who is the victim of a sexual assault would take the Donald Trump situation seriously. Have a listen to Nancy Mace response to George Stephanopoulos' question. Have a listen to this exchange.
No, you are shaming me.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right.
Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. It's been affirmed by a judge.
It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two, I live with shame. And you're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting. And quite frankly, E. Jean Carroll's comments when she did get the judgment, joking about what she was going to buy, it makes it harder for women to come forward when they make a mockery out of rape.
Absolutely and positively ridiculous, Chris.
A terrible answer, without question. All right. First of all, you talked about Stephanopoulos and being part of the Bill Clinton administration. It has absolutely nothing to do with it, okay? Because is every adult that works for a president or works for a senator responsible if that senator happens to be a scumbag like Bill Clinton was, when it came to women, right? Does you find everybody that is responsible that worked under that administration? No, you don't, okay? We're adults. It's adults are responsible for the things that they do personally. But getting back to Nancy Mace, all right? First of all, there is zero connection, Brian Shapiro and PTL Nation out there, there's zero connection between her being the victim of a horrific crime, which it was, and most of us decent people have empathy and compassion and feel sorry for her for being a rape victim. But on the same token, they're not connected to him asking a question about, yes, she pointed out herself, her political beliefs or who she supports politically. It is not connected. All right? He's not shaming her in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
At all.
Right.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
But she created it, almost in a way to kind of shield herself, or tried to shield herself. Right. She was unsuccessful doing it because we're all clowning her right now.
Right.
Okay? And it's not just us. Everybody, all talking heads across the board are clowning her, especially when it comes to non-conservative media. But the point being is that they are not something that are connected in any way at all.
Yeah.
Whether or not she was a victim of any crime has nothing to do with George Stephanopoulos asking her the question of, by the way, you support somebody who has been found, responsible for sexual battery, right? Sexual abuse of a woman, and you still support that man. Why? How about this? Just answer the question, right? Answer the question. Why do you still support him?
Right.
It's as simple as that.
And
you don't need to play the card of, you are shaming me. There's no shame at all.
And
on the part of George Stephanopoulos.
Let me take it a step
when it comes
further.
to her. She is actually insulting all of our intelligence.
I agree.
By saying that.
I'll get to that in a moment. I agree. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
So there are people on social media that are saying, I wonder if Brian believes Tara Reid. Well, I'll answer your stupid question, and I'll respond by saying this. Joe Biden was never found liable, and it was never proven in any courtroom. He was never charged with anything. He was never found liable of anything. Tara Reid changed her story multiple times. Now, that is no comparison to somebody who is proven to be a liable rapist in a courtroom. So that's number one. That's why Donald Trump has to pay up, because a jury of Donald Trump's peers found that there was enough evidence to prove that he was liable for raping E. Jean Carroll. So that's the big distinction between your stupid question that you asked me on social media, whoever that was. Number two, if you want to go by that standard, one person has accused Joe Biden of sexual abuse, and that was Tara Reid. Never found proven in any courtroom. Now, if you want to talk about courtrooms, Donald Trump's own ex-wife, who recently passed away last year, accused Donald Trump of rape in an under-oath deposition. Why did that case go away, and why wasn't Trump criminally charged? Because Donald Trump paid her off and then buried her on the first hole of his golf course so he could save money on taxes. Now, there are 26 women that have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault or rape, one of whom was under oath, Donald Trump's ex-wife. Another one proven in a courtroom. That's why Donald Trump is a proven liable rapist. So there is no comparison between Tara Reid and what we are talking about today. So it's a dumb question. Now, let me go back to what we're talking about
Nancy Mace
right
interview?
now. Yeah, let me give you my response. It'll be similar to yours when it comes to Nancy Mace. First of all, George Stephanopoulos was not trying to shame Nancy Mace, but when you put these right-wing turds, and that's, by the way, who Nancy Mace is, in a corner where they are forced to either do one of two things, either defend a liable rapist or don't. She decides to defend a liable rapist. Why? She openly endorses him and supports him. But you see, her response is, since it wasn't a criminal case and it was liable, she's trying to discredit the victim, E. Jean Carroll, which is disgusting. That's number one. Number two, you want to talk about shaming? Let me be very clear. Nancy Mace is a disgrace. She's not only a disgrace to women and victims of sexual assault, she's a disgrace to this country. Why? If anybody out there should be disgusted by this E. Jean Carroll case and what Donald Trump was found liable of, which is sexual abuse, sexual battery, it should be somebody like Nancy Mace, who tragically had to go through a similar circumstance when she was only 16 years old. But instead of answering it appropriately, she defends Donald Trump and she deflects, and then she tries to play the victim of the question. Let me be very clear. A perfectly legitimate question to ask anybody who is a victim of sexual assault, or quite frankly, anybody who's even not a victim of sexual assault, is why and how can you support a liable sexual abuser? How can you defend that? Very fair question. I'm not trying to shame somebody when I ask them that. In fact, I think it's a very appropriate question to ask. Now, if you're the type of person that cares more about policy, or you just don't like Democrats, or you don't like Joe Biden, and you would rather vote for a liable rapist because you don't like Joe Biden's policies, then go ahead and say it on the air. At least even though I'll completely disagree with you and I think it's disgusting, at least I'll have a little bit of respect for you because at least you're being honest, even though I don't agree with you. Not only did she not do that, but she tries to discredit E. Jean Carroll by saying, well, that wasn't a criminal case. So, Donald Trump couldn't have done it, right? Because it's not a criminal case. Not only does she make that disgusting argument, but she tries to go after George Stephanopoulos and all these people on the far right on social media that are, George worked in the Clinton administration. Clinton's a rapist. First of all, that question has, as Chris appropriately pointed out, has nothing to do with Bill Clinton. The question has to do with two things, and that's it. It doesn't matter who's asking it. O.J. Simpson could have asked the question. It doesn't matter. The question is about Donald Trump being a liable rapist and you being the victim of a sexual assault. How could you support that? How can you support this? That's what the question is about. Not only did she not answer it, but I'll even take it a step further. She's now campaigning off of it. On her website, she's asking for campaign contributions, and she's campaigning off of going after George Stephanopoulos and being a coward and not answering the question. She's trying to make money off of this disaster, and I'm sure Kate Britt will probably do the exact same thing. These two women are despicable. They are despicable members of the Republican Party. Not only do they support a liable rapist, it'd be one thing if you said, listen, I'm not going to vote. I don't like Joe Biden. I'm not a Democrat. I don't like his policies. Okay, fine. Even though I might disagree with you, at least I'll have some respect for you. But they're not saying that. They're not only voting for Donald Trump, but they're endorsing him, and they're trying to lecture us about rape. They're trying to lecture us about sexual abuse, and they support the liable rapist. They can both go fly a kite. You know what? Nancy Mace, if she doesn't want to be shamed, it's too late, Nancy. I'm sorry what happened to you when you were 16. I don't wish that upon anybody. But what would you call somebody who is the victim of sexual assault, who supports a liable rapist for political reasons? What would you call that person? Are we supposed to say nice things about you? Not me. Not me, ladies and gentlemen. She's disgusting in every sense of the word. And any woman out there that would be the victim of a sexual assault that would defend Donald Trump and talk about Hunter Biden's penis, you're all disgusting as far as I'm concerned. You're all Marjorie Taylor Greens, and Hillary Clinton was appropriate when she called y'all deplorables.
Let me bounce this off you, Brian. If we're supposed to hold people like George Stephanopoulos and other people that were in the Clinton administration responsible for Bill Clinton's misgivings, shouldn't we do that on the other side as well, too, when it comes to Donald J. Trump? So we start holding Sarah Huckabee Sanders responsible for Donald Trump's actions, because they worked for him when he was president of the United States? Are we supposed to hold everybody that was in the Trump administration responsible morally because they happen to work for Donald J. Trump? In the same way that there's some people on social media and beyond that are going to bag on George Stephanopoulos and other people that worked in the Clinton administration because of what went down there. No, you can't. You got to look at it through clearer glasses than that.
Yeah.
And look, let me tell you something. All right, Nancy Mace again. Trying to I use the phrase insulting the intelligence of the viewers, right? Because you're trying to portray this in a way that George Stephanopoulos did something wrong, that he was wronging you in the interview by asking you that question, that he was trying to bring up the memory of a horrible crime that you happen to be a victim of. When that was not actually what was happening. That's not what he was doing. He was simply asking a question, and in the context, you talked about this a little bit. And I'll just describe it a different way. He wanted an answer. He wanted it when he asked the question. Normally, call me crazy, people in radio and television, when you're conducting interviews, right, and you ask a question, what do you want? You want an answer, right? You want an answer. That's what he wanted. And instead, she takes it in a completely different direction. Yeah. And again, we've gone down this road before and turned it into a situation that had nothing to do at all with the topic that was at hand.
So before we take some phone calls, Chris, I just want to make something clear to some of my MAGA friends out there that might not be very intelligent. There are some people on social media that are saying, how much is the government paying you? How much is George Soros paying you? Let me be very clear to these MAGA buffoons out there. Been a registered independent my whole life, but whether I'm a Republican or Democrat is academic. You know who pays me? The sponsors of this radio show. And thank goodness the radio station I work at and the sponsors that I have, nobody tells me what to do. These are Brian Shapiro's opinions. This is how I feel, and I always base my opinions based on facts. And I'm sorry if some of you out there that live in your right-wing echo chamber and wear the Donald Trump knee pads don't like what I have to say. But guess what? Too bad. These are my opinions. Nobody's paying me to say what I say. I'm not a MAGA cultist like all of you out there that are listening that are claiming I'm being paid by the government or George Soros is paying my salary. No, these are my own personal opinions, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, you can fly a kite for all I care. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we got Chris Wynn in studio. We are going to be taking some phone calls. Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. What's the topic? Well, Katie Britt, not only with her fabulous acting job, don't think she has much of a career in the acting business. She's now a known liar because this sex trafficking story happened decades ago, but you know, she made it sound like it was happening during the Joe Biden administration. So she lied. We're talking a little bit about that. And then we're talking about Nancy Mace saying that George Stephanopoulos was trying to shame her because she supports a sexual abuser, and she was sexually abused when she was 16. He's Chris Wynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. We're going to take your calls coming back. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE. Your call's coming up next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Kelb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fun account and stay progressive.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Chris Wynn in the house. I recommend anybody check out my personal YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. Eric Swalwell retweeted some of our interview. I really enjoyed talking to him on Friday, the congressman. Very funny. It's a great interview, so check that out. At PTL Radio Show, subscribe to my YouTube page. We got Chris Wynn in the house. We're talking about Nancy Bass, who was the victim of sexual assault when she was 16. That sexual assault did happen in this country, apparently. And we talked a little bit about Katie Britt. The reason why Nancy Bass is, she's saying that George Stephanopoulos was shaming her. She's the one who's supporting a liable rapist. It's a very fair question to ask. And we're talking about Katie Britt's Republican response speech, and she was caught in a lie. We're taking your phone calls. 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Linda. Linda first up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Linda?
Hey, I was just thinking, Brian. Hi, how are you today anyway?
Good. Thank you for calling in.
You know what? There is one thing that Donald Trump told the truth about, that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose voters. Look at these people voting for him no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell did he know he was that good of a con man?
Probably, but I'll tell you something, Linda. It is a cult, and you proved it by your statement and his statement. This is a cult. Many that are in the MAGA base are cultists, and they look at him as Cheeto Jesus. And it doesn't matter if he's caught on tape committing a crime. They are still going to support him because they hate Joe Biden that much. And the arguments, and it's almost fun and depressing to hear these people squirm and try to defend Donald Trump and the despicable things he's done in his life, the despicable things he's done just in the last several years, the things he says, the things he does, and to hear them try to defend it. And they try to defend it by talking about something else, as if Joe Biden is on any fair level to Donald Trump and all the women that have come forward accusing him of sexual assault or rape. It's insane. They would rather talk about Hunter Biden and his genitalia.
Yeah, they try to deflect. But you know what? The people in Congress, I mean, not saying all of them, not like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other bimbo, but they know better.
Yeah.
Well, they know better, but yeah. Well, Linda,
does he have something on him, or is it just power?
No, it's a situation where they want to continue to stay in the good graces of the MAGA voting base, right? That's why they still do it. That's why they still stand by him. Linda, look, Brian, here's the deal, right? We say this about Trump, these two things about Trump all the time, right? We say that, and Linda brought the comment about I could shoot anybody on Fifth Avenue and still get away with it, right? That was a good guess by Trump. He didn't know at that time, but it was a great guess by him because it actually
the only
is true.
truthful thing
but
he's
also,
ever said.
but also, yeah, by the way, the one truthful thing that Nancy Mace said was that it wasn't a criminal court. Yeah, it wasn't a criminal court. It was in a civil court.
Yeah.
Okay, we all know that. Okay, any idiot, okay, that is aware of the facts knows that's the case. So Nancy Mace and Donald Trump, they say one thing that's factually accurate, and we act like they know what they're talking about. But also, and what else do we say, Linda, about Donald Trump and Brian? We say that, hey, this guy's done so many things. You alluded to it with this call with Linda. There's so many things that Trump has said and done that any other politician, your career would be over. Any normal person, any other normal Republican, independent, Democrat, if you said these things, your career is over.
Absolutely.
But Trump, in some way, has been able to weather that storm, and he's done it for 8 years.
Hey,
even
Chris,
4 years.
Chris, I have a new nickname. You could tell me if you, the Orange Teflon Rapist.
He is definitely Teflon. He's stealing it from his guy in New York City there, the mobster.
OTR.
Yeah,
OTR.
who passed away.
Orange Teflon
John Gotti.
Rapist.
Stole from John Gotti.
Yes.
The Teflon
Linda,
Don is now Donald Trump.
Linda, before I let you go, where are you calling from?
I'm in New York.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit outside of New York City.
I thought I picked up on that accent. I love my New Yorkers. You are a true New Yorker.
My New Yorkers.
Donald Trump is.
Oh, yeah,
Don-
I am.
Yeah,
Hey, Brian Shapiro Trumpy over here, my New Yorkers.
I
you
love
know,
it.
I love my blacks over here. you
yeah,
know.
that's what Donald
Yeah.
Trump. Linda.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Linda,
yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's great to
My-
hear from you
yeah,
from
no,
New York.
that's my African American.
There
yeah,
it is right
yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Perfectly
Yeah,
normal for
exactly.
someone like that to say.
Well, I'll be
perfectly
true.
normal.
I love my New Yorkers as long as their last name isn't Trump. Linda, thank you so much for calling
Thanks,
in.
Linda.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks. Both of you have a great day.
You too. So I love those New Yorkers. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Joseph. One phone line open, by the way. Hi, Joseph. What's going on?
Yeah, hey, Brian. First of all, hearing this story about Katie Britt makes me think, boy, she is dumb and stupid. I don't know how she could afford that refrigerator. But the way about Scarlett Johansson did on Saturday Night Live, I bet that is way better than what she made.
I agree. 100%.
And
Hey,
not to
Joseph.
mention-
Joseph, what
Yeah.
do you think was going on in somebody's head? I would imagine it was probably a man or a man or men that said, "Where should we have Katie Britt speak? Should be in front of a podium, at a community center, wherever. Where do you think? Hey, let's have her speak in the kitchen." Like, what brilliant Republican thought of that?
I bet that was Trump's idea because he
It might
wants
have
women
been.
to be in the kitchen.
It might have been. It might have been. Like, what person actually thought that would be a good idea? And then Republicans are like, "Oh, Democrats are attacking us because she was speaking in the kitchen." Yeah, we are, because you guys are idiots. That's why.
And speaking of Trump, I really love that joke from Jimmy Kimmel. Way past his jail time. I'll bet that's the same thing I want to say to him too.
I cannot wait if in fact the day comes where he's in an orange jumpsuit. Put him in a cell with Stephen Miller. Put him in a cell with Steve Bannon. Put him in a jail cell with Michael Flynn and all these other felonious morons, and that would make me very happy. Joseph, it is good to hear from you, my friend. Going to jump to some other calls, but I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
You got it.
All right.
Stephen Miller, he was floating around CPAC a few weeks ago. His vampire backside was floating around over there, making more despicable comments that he's prone to do.
Guess who the only person was that said Katie Britt did a great job and tweeted it out that it was awesome?
Who was that?
Stephen Miller.
But of course he did. Why not?
Even Charlie Kirk and far-right lunatics even admit that Katie Britt's performance was embarrassing. 702-221-7283. Don't get me wrong, though. Stephen Miller's a genius. I'm bald, so maybe I'll do it heated and take some spray paint. And yeah, that's what he did before he made a CNN appearance. Anyway, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Gary.
Hey, I won't lie to you. I need some money to buy another beer. Oh, wait. No, wrong notes. Wait, I'm sorry. I take that back.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't help you there.
Are you aware?
Gary, you have a comedy
hello.
show coming up on the Strip sometime? You got something going on there, big dog? Can I come see you?
Hey, stop being a linebacker for Brian. He can handle it.
I'm a linebacker for myself, Gary. You know me.
Right.
I'm opinionated as all get out.
Gary, what is the...
Shap speaks for himself, man. I want
to let you know something.
Yes.
What's that?
Today is National Allen Stock is a Boob Day. Do you know why?
I don't want to
Because
talk
he
about.
lied
Yeah,
on Friday.
I'm sure he did, but I don't want to talk about Allen Stock. I could care
All
less.
right,
what
we'll
he
talk
says.
about this then.
Yeah.
How many men? No, let's put it this way. We need some lie detector tests going on. You know how many men went to jail because the jury found them guilty of rape when they didn't rape anybody? This is even before. This is
What does
before
that have
and
to
after
do?
the DNA. was
Gary, are you
let's
aware
go
of
with that.
that being factually accurate or no?
All right, so let's go with that for a second. Gary, let me ask you a question, if I may. Donald Trump has had
Yes.
over 26 women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape. And as I mentioned, his own ex-wife in court documents in a deposition under oath. And now we know that Donald Trump will always be a liable rapist. So you mean to tell me that all these, in your opinion...
These things
hold on.
do happen,
Here's
especially if you're rich.
Here's the question. All those women that have come forward, are you telling me they're all liars and Donald Trump is innocent and never sexually abused anyone in his life? I want to know your opinion. What do you think?
I think it's very possible that he's touched women inappropriately.
Okay, well, that's
but
sexual
rape
abuse.
is ridiculous.
Okay.
I don't care if what his wife did in a deposition. She's probably angry as hell at him. Maybe she had developed this what do they call that?
Okay,
you
so
guys have,
let's go by what you said for a moment.
So we're
okay?
scoreboarding
Hold on,
levels of rape, Brian?
Yeah, let's
Is that
go
what
by.
we're doing here?
So when you inappropriately touch or grab a woman, that is sexual abuse. Now, if you don't want to characterize it as rape, that's up to you. That's fine if that's your opinion. But what do you think about somebody who wants to be the leader of the free world again, as you believe, rightfully so, because I'm with you, that he has inappropriately touched women? You think that person should be running for president of the United States?
Well, we live in a world when we're right on the edge of disaster. You have to pick somebody that's just as bad, possibly. Maybe that's the reason.
Okay, so
and they
explain to
overlook
me.
Just as bad as
everything
who?
else.
Explain,
Just as bad as who, though?
Explain to me why
who?
you characterize Joe Biden as being, quote, just as bad. What has Joe Biden done that would equal 26 women accusing him of sexual assault or rape? A person who is, in my opinion, partially responsible for what took place on January 6th, a person who defied a subpoena for a year, a person who's been civilly sued thousands
Put
of
a
times
real
in his life.
Democrat up for vote. Otherwise,
I didn't
in
ask
the next
that.
8 months,
You think
in the next 8 months, I might vote for Joe Biden to run for Congress again. I mean, it's possible.
What are you
I have
talking
a
about?
tendency
He's running
to
for
change
president,
my mind.
not Congress.
Well, he's running for Congress.
He's running for president.
Joe Biden's running.
Joe Biden
Gary,
is the other candidate
Gary,
along with Donald Trump.
Gary, I appreciate the call.
Is Gary already drunk? It's not even 2 o'clock in the afternoon
There's
yet.
a basic.
Is Gary already tore up?
There's a basic standard for people on this show. You ask a question, I ask a question. You listen, I listen.
Exactly.
And if you don't know who's running for president of the United States, then it's probably not going to be a very long phone call. 702-221-7283. Again, the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. We're talking about Katie Britt caught in a very important lie about sexual assault. We're talking about Nancy Mace, interviewed by George Stephanopoulos over the weekend, talking about her being the victim of sexual abuse when she was 16, but yet she supports the liable rapist, Donald Trump, and now she's attacking the media and George Stephanopoulos. And now she's campaigning off of it. It's so disgusting. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kava, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Kava.
Is Kava there?
Kava, are you there? Did we lose you? I think we lost Kava.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can call back, Kava. Sometimes that happens on this show. It's a live radio show, and that's totally all right. 702-221-7283. Kava, are you there? Go right ahead.
Yeah, sorry, my phone shut up.
That's okay.
So I was listening to what you guys have been talking about, and honestly, Katie Britt should just shut up at this point because, I mean, she's as bad as George Lopez is at acting. It's like, first off, she has no clue what she's talking about. She runs her mouth as if she's tough, yet she thinks that it's okay to lie. Imagine being somebody like that. Like, imagine.
I think
it's clearly evident, right, Brian, that the power, whoever it was that made this decision to have Katie Britt make the response to Joe Biden's State of the Union, it was a terrible decision.
Yeah.
She was not the one who should have who should have been there. And look, I mean, we're doing a little Monday morning quarterbacking here when it comes to having my take be like that. But it's just clearly evident. Like, look, before she made that response, I'll reiterate this. She's married to a former NFL lineman. Who they both went to the University of Alabama. They are looked at as kind of the standard when it comes to American conservatism, right? Family, all-American family with kids from the South. She was looked at as a rising star. People like Chris Cuomo and others that have met her, and thousands of others that have met her. She apparently, she's someone who's very lovely in person, right? She had that MO. Now, after what took place on Thursday night, she has essentially harpooned her career. And it is kind of a pathetic and sad story, to be honest with you.
I'm going to throw this question. It is.
How it's shaking out for her.
I'm going to throw this question out there. I'm not George Stephanopoulos. I never worked in the Clinton administration, but I'm going to ask the same question he asked, and I'm asking it not to the disgrace, Nancy Mace, the disgrace, but I'm talking in general terms to anybody out there that's a Trump supporter right now. And I asked this question.
And I have a quick question for you.
Sure. But I'm asking this question hold on one second, to any Republican that's been in studio that's running for office. Many of them are cowards. To any Republican out there that's voting for Donald Trump, I asked you the same question that George Stephanopoulos asked Nancy Mace. How can you support and how can you vote for and endorse a liable rapist? And I want people to directly answer that question and call in because, go ahead, Kava.
So I have a quick question. So as a society, in cases like this where we have politicians who are seeking that much attention
Yeah.
and who clearly have no form of intelligence, why are they allowed to do this? Why are we not stopping this and saying, we know you're lying, we know you're being as dishonest as you possibly can, we know that
I'll tell you
you're
why.
smart
I'll
in
answer your
this,
question.
but you're just doing it for attention.
I'll answer your question. It's very, very simple. One thing I give Donald Trump credit for, one of the few things, is this. He exposed how ignorant so many people are in this country. They don't want policymakers. They want noisemakers, and they want an insulter in chief. Now, luckily, that they are not the silent majority, but they are the loud minority, and that's why Donald Trump will never win office again, in my opinion. Kava, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much. We got to get to some other
And
calls.
one more question for you, Brian.
Quickly, go ahead.
Okay, so what do you think about the A's coming to Las Vegas? What are your feelings on that?
I'll get to that a little bit later, and I promise I'll answer that. But I appreciate the call, Kava. Thank you so much.
And let me add on to the because he asked you a question, you didn't really answer. You were going a different direction. So the reason why people that aren't intelligent are able to get into politics is because there's not a requirement for being smart to get into politics.
Right.
Okay, there are a lot of people that are idiots that happen to be working in Washington, D.C., and it's been highlighted. It's been magnified here in the last decade plus. But, that's a thing. So that's what he was alluding to when it comes to why are there people that are, so dumb that happen to work as public servants.
We have Vivian who's waiting patiently. Vivian, hello. Where are you calling from, Vivian?
New York.
I love my New Yorkers. I gotta get on WABC there. Vivian, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Okay, I just wanted to know what Brian's opinion was of Lindsey Graham on the news shows this Sunday. I was so disgusted. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, well, let me give you my opinions of Lindsey Graham. First of all, he's somebody with no backbone. He's very similar to McCarthy in that, back 10, 15, even 20 years ago, a lot of Democrats said, this was a normal guy with a sense of decency. And he has walked back everything he said about Donald Trump. And the criticisms of Donald Trump he had 4 or 5 years ago were correct. All Lindsey Graham cares about is remaining in power. He used to be very close to John McCain. What do you think John McCain would say about Lindsey Graham these days?
Turning over in his grave.
Yeah,
turning over in his grave.
There you go. I agree with you. And, that's who Lindsey Graham is. And quite frankly, so many within the Republican Party, they've sold their soul to Orange Man. That's what they have done. They all know that Donald Trump is a disgrace. They all know that he's a despicable human being. He's a liar. They know it. But the reason why they support him.
I don't understand because I'm like, if you don't like the MAGAs, break off from the MAGAs.
Right.
Let them go on by themselves. Let them call themselves the Trumpicans that they are, and take back your party. And do what you're supposed to do, the way it's supposed to be. It makes no sense to me that you allow this person to take over your whole party and that you allow him to just make everybody laugh at you and just talk about you like
you're right.
Dirt.
You're right. And
it makes no sense to me.
You're right.
And you're not the majority. They're not the majority. So
no.
That's why it doesn't make any sense. Why you let somebody bully you like that?
Donald Trump has taken over the party. You are 100% correct, and there are very few.
Now that he took over the RNC, forget about it.
Yeah, no, forget about it. He wants one of his own family members to be fronting it. What a joke, Laura Trump. I appreciate you. Thank you for calling in from New York, and you have a great rest of your day. Okay. I do have a MAGA on the line. Should we take a MAGA call?
Yeah, absolutely. But let me respond to that. So look, with respect to Lindsey Graham, what's remarkable is Joe Biden still extends the olive branch to Lindsey Graham. You heard him during the State of the Union speech. Kind of lightheartedly playing, messing around with Lindsey Graham there. And still, even despite the fact that Lindsey Graham, this is all you need to know about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, just a matter of a few years ago, said if you don't like Joe Biden, there's something wrong with you, right? That's what Lindsey Graham said about Joe Biden. They used to be tight. They used to be friends, and now you've got Lindsey Graham, still trying to ride the coattails of his opponent and someone who is absolutely, you couldn't find more opposite in every way, shape, or form than Joe Biden in Donald Trump.
Yeah. We do take MAGA callers here on the show. We do like differences of opinion, even though sometimes it doesn't always go so well for them. The number to call, 702-221-7283. Let's go to MAGA Patrick, who's next up on the line. He's a staunch Donald Trump supporter. Hello, Patrick.
Well, I wouldn't say staunch. I have my differences with Trump, but none of the difference. I want to second Gary. I think it was Gary that called earlier. I too would vote for Biden for Congress, as he said in Pennsylvania on Friday at his rally, that send me back to Congress. He yelled it as he does. So
Okay, so
maybe
Well, you know why he
Jeffrey
said that,
could
right?
run-
You know the context of
maybe-
it, why he said that? Because he's talking
there's
about
context to
passing the
that.
bill. He's talking about passing the bill on the border, and he wants to work with
Yeah,
Congress
sure.
to pass the bill. So it's not again. But I know why you're like, I'm going to second Gary. Gary was drunk when he called the show. He's drunk frequently when he calls his show. So I don't know why you're like
Well,
hitching
he
your
was,
wagon
he
to
was,
Gary.
he was mocking. he was mocking Biden is what he was
Patrick,
doing.
do you
Okay, well, I don't know why
understand-
he's mocking.
Patrick,
So Gary can't mock Biden.
Patrick,
because,
Patrick,
it's-
do you not understand?
Everybody mocks Biden.
Patrick,
the
Patrick,
Europeans are mocking Biden.
Patrick, do you not understand the context of what
Yes,
Chris
of
Wynn
what he
just
was
said?
saying.
When
Do
he
you
said,
understand what I was saying?
Chris,
Yeah.
or hold on, Patrick, do you think when Joe Biden said that? I want to ask you this question, Patrick.
You're
It's a
gonna ask me
serious
seriously,
question.
Brian? Seriously?
Patrick, in your
Hey,
brain,
go listen to the speech. and tell
Patrick,
me
I'm
what he
asking
was
you,
talking about.
Patrick, I'm asking you a question now. Do
Oh,
you
yeah, of course
believe?
you do. You
Do
always
you
do.
believe when Joe Biden said "send me back to Congress," he was talking about as a politician, or send me back to Congress to talk about the bill to try to pass it through Congress? Patrick, I'm asking you a serious
I
question.
think you should probably ask him.
Patrick,
you
Patrick,
should ask him.
Patrick.
No, he's asking you.
Hold on. Patrick, the question.
Biden said it, not me.
Patrick, the question isn't about Joe Biden asking him the question.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about Patrick. So I'm going to ask it to you again, because I know we get into these situations where I'll ask
Hey,
you
I'm
the
not
same-
an egomaniac.
Okay,
It's not always
Patrick,
about me.
Patrick.
He just
this-
wants your take, bro.
Patrick,
That's
this
it. He
isn't
wants your
about
take.
I
Patrick.
gave you my take.
Patrick,
you know my
pot him
take.
down. Okay, let's have some silence here and let's all try to focus. So, Patrick, I'm going to ask you this question now for a third time, and I'm not attacking you by asking you the question. It's a very serious question. Joe Biden was talking about the border bill, and when he used the term "send me back to Congress," do you think he was talking about sending him personally back to Congress to be a congressman, or this is the second option? Do you think maybe he was talking about sending the bill back to Congress so he could work with people in Congress? I'm asking you a very direct question. I think it deserves a very direct answer. Patrick, can you please answer that question for me?
He obviously misspoke just like he did when he called
Pot him
Lincoln
down.
Riley.
No, Patrick. The question had nothing to do with Lincoln Riley, and he was not misspeaking. You see, Patrick, when you say, "send me back to Congress," and I know this might be hard for you to understand because clearly it is based on your answer. When he says "send me back to Congress," like many presidents have said back in the day, Obama said it many times, even Trump said it, so that he can negotiate with Congress. Send me back to Congress. He wants to negotiate with those in Congress. Patrick, does that not make sense to you? What part of that doesn't make sense to you? I just want to get inside your very intelligent MAGA head. What part of that doesn't make sense to you?
Did he misspeak when he said Lincoln instead of Lincoln?
The question was not about Lincoln Riley. I'm now going to ask
He doesn't
you-
want to answer the question,
Okay,
Brian.
so Patrick,
He clearly doesn't.
The question, you see, Patrick, I know you really struggle to
avoiding it.
answer things directly because you're the one who started this conversation talking about this. The question wasn't about Lincoln Riley. I know you want to change
And
the
he
subject.
misrepresented it,
Right.
yeah.
I know you want to change the topic. Patrick, did he misspeak? Or maybe was he speaking about working with people in Congress to send him back to Congress? Patrick, which one do you think that is? I know it's a really hard question, Patrick. Which one do you think it is?
Definitely misspoke, as I've said
He
many
misspoke.
times. Why are you
Okay.
gonna ask
Well, you know what? I guess I misread you, Patrick. I thought you were smarter. I'm really sorry. I thought your IQ was at least over 20, Patrick. I really did. I misread your IQ, so I apologize. Just like Joe Biden, I misrepresented the situation. I thought you would be smart enough to be able to answer that question, Patrick. Patrick, do you have anything else really intelligent you'd like to bring up today?
Yeah, let's talk about the jobs numbers and the reports.
They're great.
They're great.
The job numbers
Yeah.
are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Under 4% for the last 3 years, or two and a half years, right? Which is the longest stint in 50 years, Patrick. Yeah, you gave him a nickname, MAGA,
kind
Patrick.
of
I'll just
job?
call it Patrick.
What
But hey,
kind of job?
Patrick,
What
the numbers
kind of
when it
job?
comes to jobs are stellar.
What kind of jobs?
With respect to the
See,
Biden
I'll
administration.
tell you what Patrick is going
What
to
kind
do.
of jobs?
Hold on,
What
Chris.
kind of jobs?
Hang on,
What kind of jobs?
Hang on,
What kind of
hang
jobs
on,
are
hang
we
on.
talking about?
I know exactly what Patrick is going
What's
to
he
do,
talking
like
about?
what so many
Yeah.
of the MAGA deplorables do.
Yeah.
He's going to try to make the case now that they're all part-time jobs, so they don't count. Right, Patrick?
Really?
Is that Patrick? I know how you guys think. Was that what you were going to try to say, Patrick? Because they're
Oh,
part-time
they
jobs.
count. They count more than once. Normally, people used to have one job. Now
You're
they
so
have two and three
predictable.
jobs. So yeah, they count.
So okay, but they shouldn't count though, right? They shouldn't put those in the statistics, Patrick. Is
Hey, the unemployment rate ticked up. The labor participation rate is not in a good state. So you guys you're laughing about this stuff. People
No,
are
I'm
not
laughing
happy.
at
These are
you.
part-time jobs.
We're kind of laughing
I'm
at
laughing
you.
at you, Patrick, because
And
you're
look,
ridiculous. Have a nice day, Patrick. I appreciate your very
so
intelligent
here's the
phone
deal
call.
on that phone call, right, with Patrick, right? I don't even know if he realizes that you were basically mocking him, right, Numchuck, for the last 3 minutes of that phone call.
I was trying to get an
your
answer out of
tone was kind of hilarious because you were clearly mocking the you-know-what out of him, and I don't even know. I can't even say right now, Patrick, that I know that you were aware of it. I don't know if he was.
Okay,
He might not have been.
I'm going to take another call, but before I do, let's just review for 20 seconds of that call.
Yes.
In that phone call, MAGA Patrick claimed that when Joe Biden said, send me back to Congress, he literally meant send him as a congressman from president to Congress, which
Exactly.
obviously is the dumbest take in the world.
All right.
And then in the other take he made was, let's discredit the unemployment numbers, which Chris accurately pointed out were the lowest they've been in 50 years, because some of those jobs are part-time jobs. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Patrick, thank you.
Well, you can.
Patrick,
That's what he does. That's
Patrick-
what Patrick was doing.
Patrick,
He's making stuff up.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Patrick, for that brilliant phone call. You're a Rhodes Scholar. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on Pushing the Limits. What's
Hey,
up,
Paul?
God, the level of stupidity on some of these people in this country, it actually hurts my brain how stupid they are. It's just, if Biden cured cancer, they'd say Trump 24, or unemployment's, everybody has a job. Well, yeah, but if Trump, I cannot, it's never good enough. It's like they have to hate the other party so much. And I don't know if you can fix that, Brian. I wish we could, but they just want to own the libs. And every caller, unless I'm wrong, is almost some white, uneducated hillbilly from Indiana, Alabama, Tennessee, that has a "don't tread on me" and tattoos and a long beard and thinks they're some kind of fake patriot that sits in church on Sunday and doesn't practice the Bible any other day of the week. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. What bothers me, it's interesting what Swalwell, I don't know if you heard my interview with Eric Swalwell on Friday, but it's interesting.
He's my congressman. I met him.
Nice guy. So it's interesting what he said, and I want to repeat this, and I want to get both of your thoughts on it. He said, listen, I have less of a problem with the staunch Trump supporters that actually believe what he says than the Republicans out there that are completely two-faced, that know he's a piece of human excrement, but yet they still support him. And I kind of agree. I mean, we know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. We know she's despicable. We know she's uneducated. We know she's not very bright, right? But I actually believe that she believes with what she says, right? She's just not very bright. And listen, I'll put Patrick in that category. All due respect, Patrick. I'll see if I can get you Marjorie's phone number. But with that being said, there are people, Eric Swalwell told me a story, and it went viral. He told me a story about how Ted Cruz saw him in the Senate bathroom. They had just gotten out of.
Oh, yes.
And
I know
he kind of gives him a fist pump at Ted Cruz, and I really love what you're doing out there. You're doing a great job. And Swalwell looked at him with this look like, wow, you're just a different person when the cameras aren't on you. And those are the real threat. Those are the two-faced cowards. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I totally agree with them.
Well, to that point, to the caller, right? This is the thing. It's kind of viewed like they're supposed to be smarter than that, right? Those people that you're talking about a lot. What Hillary Clinton said was the deplorables, right? Which are people that you're not going to ever get to them, right? They're going to be Trump supporters till the cows come home. Trump's going to have to be dead and buried before they leave Trump, right? It's the people that are smart enough to manipulate, right? And to be that way. That's why, or possibly they could maybe move the levers of power, right, where they could actually do something, and so that makes them more dangerous, right? We talked about that with Ron DeSantis, right? Ron DeSantis, is very Trumpian, but he's also much more legitimate, or it seemed like he was. He's out of the picture now, but it seemed like he'd be much more legitimate than somebody like Trump or some of Trump's supporters, right? So that's kind of what Eric was probably referring to. I didn't hear the interview, but I'm sure that's the direction he went. But to the caller and to Brian, how about this, guys? Guys, like Katie Britt talked about how Joe Biden's policies have been, I don't know what the adjective was horrendous or horrific, right, for the country. But I would guarantee you, the caller brought up the Trump supporters and the MAGA people. I guarantee you, hundreds of thousands, millions of Americans have no idea what the Joe Biden administration has with respect to specifics on policy at the border. They have no clue. And I would suspect that Katie Britt and even some lawmakers can't even articulate what the Biden administration is doing wrong when it comes to the border as far as their policies. And that's I mean, it's not really hilarious. It's just kind of sickening, but that is a thing. You know.
Go ahead, Paul. We'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
It is. Listen, I'm doing my ancestry right now. There's people from Ireland, Germany, Norway. I got family from Canada. They're from all over the world. This country wouldn't be what it was if it wasn't for immigrants. But white grievance Marjorie Taylor Greene, wrapped in Christian nationalism, finds one undocumented person that committed a crime, and she's going to protest, and somehow she is the white victim of a brown person coming from Mexico. What about how many illegal immigrants stormed the Capitol? How many illegal immigrants cheated on the third wife with the porn star? How many illegal immigrants stored top secret documents? Oh, but his laptop. Here's the difference in the two parties. The Democrats wore white to the thing in protest, and a lot of the Democrats did undecided in the votes. Democrats can criticize Joe Biden, and they will do it publicly. Republicans won't do it because he's their God. He's their Jesus.
Cheeto
And
Jesus.
anytime you ask them a question like, hey, how was your weekend? Trump 24. Hey, give me 10 policies that you give Trump. Trump 24. Like, there's some kind of sheep, sit, roll over, die, heal, lick my boots. Trump 24.
Hey, Paul, you ready for this?
How you fix that?
You ready for this, Paul? Here are the policies or the platforms of these MAGA Republicans today. We need to ban drag queens. We need to ban books. We need to ban gay marriage. We need to ban abortion. That is the entire platform of Republicans in 2024. Paul, I appreciate your phone call, my friend, as always. Yep, go ahead.
Let me say one last thing.
Sure.
Yep.
If you Republicans you idiots that are saying Trump 24 in the comments want to ban books, then you should ban the Bible, because there's rape, there's incest, and there's crucifixion in there.
Yeah.
And if you're going to ban the book about a gay pride flag and read the Bible to your kids on Sunday mornings, then you're the problem. And I say that as a Christian.
And maybe to take it a step further, maybe we should ban let's ban any orange man from holding a Bible upside down in front of a church when the owners of the church don't even want him there. Let's ban that. Let's start there. Paul, I'm with you, my friend. Thank you for the call, sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks,
Later.
Paul.
All right, we got a first-time caller on the line. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Shannon. Shannon, hi. Thanks for calling in. Calling from Kansas City, right, Shannon? Thank you. Or for Kansas.
Actually, in the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much for calling in. What's on your mind?
Yes. Well, I watched the whole address, and I enjoyed Biden's address very much, his ideals and where he was wanting to go, and I enjoyed him semi-bullying, I want to say. I don't really know if I'd call it bullying, but definitely being, his foot down. But when they got to the Katie Britt, I'm going to call it a skit, because you could definitely tell it was all prompter work the whole time.
Right.
There was absolutely no way in 30 seconds you can go from cute little, of course, kitchen housewife to psycho enraged about Biden policy. It didn't make any sense to me. It was disgusting to watch. Something else that was absolutely disturbing to me was nobody on the other side could stand up or clap or smile. It was like they were in a trance for Trump, and every single time.
Yeah.
Can
I give you a good example?
Speaker.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure,
I want you to finish. I just want to interject real quick at what you're speaking of. So you remember when Mike Johnson, that nut job, is sitting behind Joe Biden, right? So Joe Biden doesn't bring up something partisan, right? He brings up, something basically, which I think he was talking about, kids reading. Helping them learn, helping them read in school. It was a very basic, generic comment, but it was about, hey, we got to do a better job of helping our kids with reading. And obviously the Democrats are standing up. There's a few. And then Mike Johnson is sitting there nodding his head no. And I'm thinking to myself, what's bad about teaching kids how to read? Like, he wasn't.
Yes.
I'm like, what, what a moron. He cares more about his accountability partner, his porn accountability partner, his young son.
Yes.
He cares more about that, about, oh my God, his 17-year-old or 16-year-old son, or however, oh my God, he might look at a woman naked online, or a man. There's nothing wrong with that. And he might be worried about that. But if it's about kids learning how to read, oh no, that's terrible. These people are crazy.
It was absolutely disgusting.
They're crazy. Mike Johnson is a crazy person.
Yeah, by the way, too, Mike Johnson was doing a lot of head shaking in that during that speech, too.
The eyebrows got
By the
me,
way,
man.
the eyes rolling and the head shaking is exactly what he does in the bedroom with his wife. Make no mistake about it.
I'm sure.
Hey, but to the caller and to Brian, Brian, let's be factually accurate though. When it comes to we got to be honest here, okay? I'm not going to play favorites here. When the State of the Union speech is going on, the opposing party often, it doesn't matter who the president is, the opposing party will sit on their hands, okay? So so don't be surprised that Republicans weren't getting up and cheering Joe Biden, in any way, because that happens every State of the Union speech, regardless of who the president is when it comes to the other party. Yeah,
but let me be clear.
It's disgusting on both sides.
Let me tell you. Let me.
Well,
ask
no, it doesn't. Look. I'll push back a little bit. It doesn't have to be disgusting. It can be just, it's just that's just the politics of DC. That's the way it is. We don't agree with it, right? In a perfect world, you'd want to say, hey, show some appreciation when it's appropriate. But don't do it. Yeah.
So let me describe, in my opinion, the difference. If Donald Trump was up making the State of the Union address, and I'm going to name a couple things here. If he called Kyle Rittenhouse a hero, the Republicans would stand up and start clapping. If he called African Americans thugs for a shooting that took place, the Republicans would stand up and clap. If he called Mexicans rapists, the Republicans would stand up and clap. If he made fun of a female based on looks, or if he attacked somebody in our, a brave man and woman who served, say, overseas, if he mocked Beau Biden, if he mocked Nikki Haley's husband, which he already did, I believe there is a large portion of the Republicans that were there that would stand up and clap. That is the difference between Democrats and Republicans today. If he called John Fetterman a vegetable, people would stand up and clap. Now, I don't think Democrats would stand up and clap. If Joe Biden would never make a statement like that. But the reason why I bring this up, these are some things that Donald Trump has said, and I haven't heard many Republicans call him out for it. So I think that's the distinction between Republicans and Democrats. Look who's going to be speaking at the Republican National Convention. It could be the McCloskeys, who pointed guns at a bunch of black people that were not on their private property, or a guy like a Kyle Rittenhouse, who is a moron. He's a moron, but people look up to him as some sort of hero. These are the types of people that many of these MAGA Republicans look up to as heroes, and it's disgusting. And Katie Britt and Nancy Mace fall into that category because their hero is a liable rapist.
I can't understand how they can, excuse me, I can't understand how even during the high talking points, he did go over some things that the conservatives did go in on bills and that did get passed, and they couldn't even be excited for the stuff that they helped with. You could just tell how much of a puppet circus that was, because it was literally dubbed on eyebrows and nods or head shakes the entire time.
You are 150% correct. By the way, I'm sorry that you have just a horrible. You live in Missouri, right?
Kansas.
I live in the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Right, right. And I'm sorry you have such a terrible governor. I really am.
Me too.
And he's pathetic. He's a joke. He wants to tell people like you what to do with your body. He does. Why is it always middle-aged MAGA white Republicans that want to tell women what to do with their body? I find that very interesting. But I appreciate
because they don't know what to do with our bodies.
Yeah, that's great. I love
Singer.
that. I love that. That is a singer. Are you trying to tell me that Donald Trump isn't good in the bedroom? I mean, listen, Melania Trump won't even touch his hand, let alone another part of his body.
Blood's on his hand.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I'm sure I would be willing to make a bet that Donald Trump, if he pleasures himself to anything, it would probably be David Duke, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, thank you so much for calling in. It's good to hear from you.
You're welcome.
You stay
Have
safe.
a great day.
Thank you. Kansas, where one of my favorite movies was filmed, the movie Twister. Legendary flick.
It was filmed in Kansas, right?
Part of it, part of the movie, and then Hollywood. 702-221-7283 if you want to be a part of the show. 702-221-SAVE. Chris, I'm going to ask you this question before we take another call.
Okay.
I'm going to put you in a very peculiar situation right now.
Because you never do that ever.
Yeah.
So
Joe Biden and his wife, they seem like a very loving couple.
Yeah,
They love each other. It seems like they have a pretty good relationship. I have a lot of respect.
Yeah.
What do you think it would be like what is it like for a Melania Trump to have to lie underneath Donald Trump? Like what do you think? Is that hell? Like if there is a hell out there, do you think that's what hell is? Orange Man on top of you?
That's it. That is a peculiar question.
Yes.
And again, it leads me to I say this to Shap all the time out there, PTL Nation and Numchuck and beyond. You kind of do have a different outlook on certain situations.
Well,
I never have thought about that.
You
To be
didn't.
quite honest,
I
with
thought
you.
you
No,
did.
I
Okay, I
absolutely
thought you
positively have
did.
never thought about that.
Yeah.
There was a funny video. I don't know if you saw it over the weekend of Trump. I believe he was at Mar-a-Lago because he was hosting another ridiculous leader in Viktor Orban, I believe.
Yeah.
He was hosting over the weekend. And it was the first time I've seen Melania Trump, by the way, on video in literally like a year and a half.
Can I ask you another question?
Or where
All right,
she was.
I won't make you ask
but
that.
I'm kind of finishing the
Okay,
story.
go ahead.
So just let me finish.
Go ahead.
So and there's video of them, and the caption underneath it is, "What do you think she's thinking right now?" Because the two of them are there. They're still supposed to be a married couple, right?
Right.
Absolutely, positively, Brian Shapiro, zero contact whatsoever, and they were absolutely about 2 or 3 feet away from each other the whole time. And the video's a solid minute and a half where they do not have any hand holding, no kind of physical contact whatsoever. It was one of the most strangest things I've seen.
Well,
and look, it makes sense to me because Donald Trump's a weird guy.
Sure.
You know? So
I'll
and
ask
he's
you
weird
another
in
question.
so many ways.
You don't have to answer that. I'll ask you another one.
But the question you asked,
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
perfectly honest, which I like to do, I've never really thought about
Okay.
it.
What do you think the site would look like to Kimberly Guilfoyle? Because I've heard it's a turn on for her when she sees Eric Trump Jr. wearing those $19 sneakers that they I would assume they got for free, but most people have to pay $400 for. And it's a rumor, allegedly. I don't know if it's true or not, but Eric Trump walks into the bedroom with nothing on except for those very gold, very inexpensive sneakers. What do you think about that?
I think that is over the top, beyond hilarious in every way.
The best is
possible.
yet to come, though.
And every time I think about Kimberly Guilfoyle, I just think about who her ex is and how you go from Gavin Newsom to Donald Trump Jr. I'm not trying to criticize her or praise her. I'm just asking the question. What?
Yeah. By the
You're
way,
gonna go from that to that. Wait, what?
By the way,
how does that work?
By the
out?
way,
I don't-
Melania
it's strange.
Trump made one of her contractual obligations to be within 5 feet of Donald Trump. I would think she wants to be probably 5 million miles away, but she made one of her contractual obligations to be around Donald Trump briefly. They weren't holding hands, obviously no affection. I don't have any respect for Melania Trump either, by the way. But don't get me wrong. I'm sure she married him for his lavishly good looks and
Tremendous personality.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it was,
because
right?
I'm sure there's no more pretty sight than seeing Donald Trump with his shirt off. Let's go back to the phone calls. 702-221-7283. Listen, Melania Trump is a very beautiful woman.
She is.
You know, I think Dr. Jill Biden's a very beautiful woman as well. The big difference is Dr. Jill Biden didn't marry Orange Turd. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Susan. Susan is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Susan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right, Susan. What's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to talk about the Katie Britt thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I watched that, and she most definitely characterized that poor woman's story as having happened in Texas.
Right, correct.
And she even said that, you would think that this would be something that happened in the third world, but here it is, and I think that was just absolutely reprehensible.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I think it was absolutely reprehensible. And, the thing is that nobody could ever take anything Katie Britt says seriously ever again. I mean, she's done some things that some people have respect for her education, what have you. It's very hard for me, especially if you're a victim of sexual abuse or assault, even like in the case of Nancy Mace. But it's very hard for me to take anything Katie Britt will say seriously ever again when the one example that she decides to point out, a specific example, and by the way, she tried to make it sound like it was in confidence. And, I heard this story. This woman who was the victim of sexual
She
assault.
confided in me, right, Brian?
She confided in me. Okay. Guess what? That's like me saying Donald Trump confided in me that he wants to make America great again. I mean, it's an idiotic statement. This woman has been public about her story. That's number one. So that was lie number one. Lie number two is she said it. She alluded to the fact that it's because of our borders that this happened. This happened in Mexico. She alluded to the fact that it was Joe Biden's fault when we know, and I don't blame George W. Bush for this. There were a lot of issues at the border under George W. Bush, but this happened under the Bush administration. But she doubles down and she goes on Fox News. Oh, I made it so clear. No, you didn't, you idiot. You didn't make it clear at all. Did you say when it happened? Did you give the year? No, you didn't do that at all. You were 10 feet away from your $10,000 refrigerator in the kitchen, because that's what the Republicans in your party think of you. They think you belong in the kitchen, and they tried to coach you. I don't know if it was some sort of Kirk Cameron acting class, or maybe she went to the AVN Awards. I don't know. But the bottom line is, and listen, many Republicans agree with me on this, except for maybe the Stephen Millers of the world. Many Republicans agree with me on this. Can we also agree, and I'm going to ask you because I would assume you're a female, would you agree with me that Katie Britt is probably the woman who constantly fakes an orgasm? Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think that's probably a fair assumption, yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, you would like her?
Yeah, I would probably. I would. But she said she made it very clear. The only thing that she made very clear is that she had an agenda and that she was trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator of all things MAGA. That's what she was doing when she made that, when she had that response. That was the only thing that was clear. It was clear that she was using words, but they were not in any way truthful or factually accurate in any way.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, let me be very clear, okay? There are people on social media that are saying, Brian, you're making it sound bad to be a housewife. Never once have I ever said there's anything negative or bad about being a housewife. What I am saying is you have a sitting person in office who is making a very serious speech about a lot of issues. Most people in a professional setting would say putting a woman in a kitchen is probably not a really good idea. A professional
Probably not.
Right. Why is it that we don't see a man sitting in a kitchen? Why is it that when we've heard the Republican response, we've never had a man sit in a kitchen? Please ask yourself that question, and I think the answer is pretty clear. There are plenty of Republicans that think a woman belongs in a kitchen, okay? That is the fact. And I'll tell you something else, okay? So a friend of mine, and I'm not name dropping here, I'm telling you this because she is a very powerful woman who happens to be black. I'm talking about Vivica A. Fox, a beautiful, talented woman, right? She went on social media after the speech and she praised Joe Biden, and she put up a picture of her and Joe Biden. The MAGA Republicans, you wouldn't believe the despicable statements they were saying about Vivica Fox, because many in the Republican Party, not all, but especially MAGA Republicans, they don't want to hear from a powerful woman who happens to be black. I'm sorry. Just look at the Republican Party, and that says it all.
Mm-hmm.
It says it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They want America to be white. They want women to be in the kitchen and subservient to men. And they want just, transgenders and LGBTQ people to disappear.
Yeah.
And
I disagree with you a little bit. I have to pull back on what you said. Maybe some want America to be white. I think a lot of people want America to look orange. I really believe that. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Hey, it's good to hear from you, Susan. I appreciate your phone call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Susan.
I appreciate you.
You betcha.
Yeah. So we do have a lot more to talk about, C-Win. We really do. We got to talk a little bit about the Oscars. There was some politics involved there a little bit, some Jimmy Kimmel cheap shots.
You think?
Yeah, so we will talk a little bit, certainly, about that. And I do want to get a take from another. I love the fact that we get a bunch of men and women calling into the show. I don't think all the women calling in are calling from their kitchens. I'm not a member of the far-right Republican Party, so I don't think that.
Well, men or women? Well, who else is going to call in besides men or women? I don't know. We could have aliens call in, I guess. Yeah. But the lady joining us next, and I think a lot of you are going to enjoy this. You've seen her on Dr. Phil. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's right, Dr. Phil. She's been on Dr. Phil. She's been on the Jimmy Kimmel Show 5 times. She comes from a right-wing evangelical family, very far right. She said, she used to be a pastor. She said, I want to get out of this lifestyle. I want to make my own decisions, my own life. And she's doing pretty well now. She's a life coach. She's an OnlyFans model. I want to get her thoughts on this Katie Britt performance. And I want to ask her if she thinks Katie Britt is the type of person that would fake an orgasm. Very important question that I want to ask her. And I also want to get her take on the Oscars and a lot of other things. So Nicole Mitchell's going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick... Yeah, Dr. Phil. Was that Dr. Phil on the line? Really? Is that Dr. Phil?
Really? You get help, you narcissistic bitch.
Wow, Dr. Phil, Dr. Phil, that's not very nice. The very beautiful and talented Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us next in 90 seconds. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16. U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign Bot Fun account and stay progressive.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council. With a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen, I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. We got some very big guests lined up.
Week for you. If you just joined Pushing the Limits show, like I'd like to think like not many other shows around. You know, you listen to right-wing echo chamber radio where it's completely one-sided. I have a lot of Republicans on the show all the time. In fact, Eric Swallow on Friday was one of the few Democrats in office that I had on the show for quite some time. You can follow me on my personal socials, of course, on YouTube at PTL Radio Show, at PTL Radio Show on social media X. You can follow me on TikTok as well. So there's a lot of different platforms where you can watch the show, where you can follow me. And, of course, Chris Wynn is joining me in studio now on a Monday, where you can follow Chris well. He is a residential liberal. What have we been talking about today? Well, you missed a lot of topics. Of course, we've been talking about Nancy Mace and the George Stephanopoulos question. We talked about that. We've been talking about Katie Britt. But joining us right now, she comes from a very right-wing evangelical family. She is a former pastor, and now she is not only an OnlyFans model, but she also is a life coach, and she's completely changed her life, in my opinion, anyway, for the better. Of course, I'm talking about, you've seen her on Jimmy Kimmel, you've seen her on Dr. Phil's show. Nicole Mitchell joining us right now. Nicole, it's great to see you as always. How are you?
I'm so good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. That is right, Nicole. Boy, I have so much to get to with you, and I do want to, of course, we want to talk to you. Me and Chris want to talk to you about the Oscars.
We have so much to
we
get
do.
to with you. Yes.
But before we get to the Oscars, what did you make of Katie Britt's Republican response performance and Scarlett Johansson mocking her with her imitation on Saturday Night Live? It's kind of taken a mind of its own. What do you make of this?
It is an award-winning performance. I am a public speaker. I'm someone who's on camera all the time. As a public speaker and as someone who's on camera all the time, I have a lot of respect for her performance. I mean, like, knocked it out of the park, brought the tears on cue, brought the intensity on cue, brought the overly graphic detail to keep people hooked, and also promoted stereotypical gender roles all at the same time. It was a masterpiece. I have to hand it to her.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Nicole, because a lot of females, particularly Republicans that I've spoken to, were offended by the fact that she was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I get messages from people on social media. Brian, are you saying there's anything wrong with being a housewife? Of course not. But what did you make of that setting? You come from the evangelical right, a family that's on the evangelical right, where a lot of those people, don't they feel like a woman belongs in the kitchen, which is obviously terrible. But you come from that type of atmosphere, don't you?
It's so smart, because she's marketing towards younger families. She's marketing towards a demographic where there are still enough belief in gender roles, traditional gender roles, but also trying to act like she's progressive at the same time. Like, I really feel like her team was brilliant in the way it was delivered. And of course, she's going to get crap for it, as she should, because she's promoting a way of life for women that is so stereotypical, that is so limiting, that is not accurate representation of women across the board. So I'm glad SNL did a skit on her. I'm glad she's getting pushed back. I think it's definitely appropriate.
Let me ask you one more question about this, and then I want to let Chris go here. But coming from that lifestyle of being on the far right as an evangelical Christian, and where you are today, which you're on the opposite side of it now, which I think you're on the right side, if you had an opportunity in private to speak with Katie Britt, I'm curious, Nicole, what would you say to her?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Give me a moment.
No problem. Chris, what would you say to her?
Yeah, Chris, what would you say?
Katie Britt?
Yeah.
I did have some comments regarding the setting, and I kind of wanted to bounce this off of you, Nicole. So if you're listening, look, I'm not going to try to act like some political advisor in any way, and I'm not someone who's going to be making a habit of giving Republicans ideas when it comes to stuff like this, right? But Nicole, you did talk about some of the positive aspects of maybe having it in the kitchen, but for me, I think of it like this. They should have gone this direction. With Katie Britt, she was supposed to be a rising star in the Republican Party. So if you have someone like that who's an individual, don't you want to portray them in a more powerful type of situation? Dress her up, put her at a podium, make it look like it's a more professional type of situation. Look, we get it because it's politics that basically the response is going to be what? You're going to be probably a lot of criticism of Joe Biden, right? They're going to take that perspective that Republicans would take. But wouldn't you want to portray her as a strong young woman behind a podium in a position where you're trying to project that she is someone who is going to elevate her career? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it seems to me that's the direction they should have gone instead of perpetuating this idea. And this is my opinion here. I'm going in my opinion. There's been a lot of discussion around the Republican Party and women in the Republican Party, references to the Handmaid's Tale because of the abortion issue, right? And everything that's going on. Putting her in a kitchen like that, I think that's something that was detrimental to them. And I think it was a negative thing for them from that standpoint, as opposed to what I think they could have done if they put her in a situation where she looked like she was a rising star, right? And it was a professional atmosphere where she could project strength and wisdom and, wisdom beyond her years, which obviously what we saw the finished product there, it completely came out the opposite. And now she's essentially a cartoon character and is getting made fun of and is a punchline all over the country.
I think it was a calculated and strategic move because I think Republicans don't like strong, powerful women. They don't like having women behind the pulpit, the stadium, the podium, right? They like them in the kitchen. And so I feel like they actually nailed it where it's like, let's have you sound strong. Let's have you come across as intense, but let's have you exactly where we want women to be. You
Nicole,
have a voice, but we don't value it.
Right.
Nicole, very serious question that I have to ask you here. And I respect your opinion on anything, especially this. Do you agree with me that Katie Britt is probably the type of woman that would get an A+ for fake? And we have to say this in a PG-13 way, but would get an A+ for faking an orgasm. Because I think she would be she's probably really good at that.
With her level of performance in her speech, I think she would probably get an A+.
Yeah, she's
in
probably.
Do
you think
somebody needed to get her an oxygen tank? By the way, I mean there were certain times during that response where she was like gasping for air. Right, you guys? Like it was like I mean, look, she's in her early 40s. She's not someone who's my age or older, where you should have respiratory issues, and it seemed like there was something going on there. That was strange too.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think it resonates with the country to have her not only in a kitchen but 10 feet away from a $10,000 refrigerator?
I wonder if that's even her kitchen.
I would assume
I bet it was. I bet it was. Yeah.
But I'll say Saturday Night Live did a great job at recreating that.
If
kitchen.
it wasn't her
I'll say
kitchen, then that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
I don't know.
It is.
Why would you? I'm
Dude,
I'm
they're
sure
being strategic. They're putting a crap ton of money and getting the message exactly right. Everything was framed perfectly. 2 exact photos on the fridge, 1 piece of paper. The fruit tray was propped up on its side so you could see it was a fruit tray. Like everything was very staged. So as someone who does a lot of camera work, I remember when I filmed a documentary, we filmed a kitchen scene. It wasn't my kitchen. They rented a house. They picked the kitchen they wanted me to be in because it fit the messaging that they want to get across. Because if you look at that kitchen, it's conservative.
Yeah,
it's older. It's not new and modern. They're trying to put a traditional messaging. So I don't even know if it's her kitchen.
Nicole, you know what? One thing that would have probably made it even better for me is if a man behind the scenes, like her husband, screamed in the middle of her speech, "Go make me a sandwich," something like that. That probably would have made it even better. I'm sure some of the Republicans.
Go make me chicken pot pie.
Yeah,
what movie is that from?
I'm sure some of the Republicans might have wanted her to do that. I don't know, Nicole, but
they should have had that in Trump's voice in the background. It would have been perfect.
It would have been even better. They should have done that on Saturday Night Live. Yes! But I think we all could agree it was really embarrassing. It's embarrassing for Republicans, and the fact that she lied in so much of what she said, even lying about sexual assault, right, Nicole? I don't know if you saw that, but
that was my biggest issue. I don't mind her performance. I don't mind, I'm not surprised. This is the Republican Party. They're going to push traditional morals and values. But what made me so angry was the manipulation and the lying of the timing of the events of the assault, the graphic detail as she's trying to talk about children at the kitchen table. It was, that made me mad because she blatantly lied and says she is a woman of integrity and is here to help the people. That is not okay.
No, I agree with you. I think that was probably, the whole thing was an embarrassment, but I do agree with you. The worst part about it is when you use, and that's what they're doing, right? They're using a horrible situation at the time, a 12-year-old that was raped, whether it was in Mexico, and it was in Mexico, wherever it was, it's terrible. And you're trying to score political points when it happened under a Republican president. I don't blame George W. Bush for that. I blame the people that committed the crime, right?
Yes.
Or crimes. But it's like you're trying to compare that and blame the Joe Biden administration, yet for something that happened in the George W. Bush administration, and it didn't even happen in this country. It happened in Mexico. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's so bad.
And to Brian and Nicole, right? Look, there's something we haven't touched on, Brian, the whole show. She was trying to insinuate that this false premise and this lie that Democrats are down, or that are lax on crime, and that Republicans are these tough people that, that are going to stand up for people that end up victims of horrific crimes like rape or sexual assault and etc. Right. That's really what she was trying to perpetrate, Nicole. That was, again, infuriating to a lot of us that watched that, because that was another aspect of trying to insult our intelligence by trying to make that to make that insinuation that we all know is completely false.
But let's talk about Hunter Biden's laptop anyway. Nicole, let's talk about something that apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of the Republicans are obsessed at, which is male nudity in the House chambers. But let's talk about the Oscars. We did have a little bit of semi-male nudity, which I'm sure you may or may not have enjoyed. I don't know. But John Cena at the Oscars was pretty much naked up there on stage standing next to Jimmy Kimmel. What did you make of that?
I think it's hilarious. I value entertainment. I love nudity. I don't mind. But my first question as a woman, how would everyone respond if a woman did that?
There is a double standard there. Now, I would have personally enjoyed it, depending on who the woman was, but I would have personally enjoyed that. I could sit here and say in a heterosexual way, but it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, man or woman, that John Cena's a good-looking guy. You know, he's a good-looking guy. He's built like a brick. I would have. Why not both, Nicole? Give me a little help here. Why not both? Why couldn't we have had you up there? Why not both?
Exactly. I do it. I'm down. I'm a big believer in both, and I love nudity. Yes, let's do it.
But I love the fact that the far right, evangelical right, were the family that you are from and that group that you are from. I'm sure they had a big problem with that. Like, what is so wrong with having a little bit of fun? And at the Oscars, I don't think anything that they did last night was out of bounds. Do you guys think so, Nicole?
I mean, I'm so open-minded, and I read an article last night about how it represents the brokenness of our society that John Cena would go up, and it's entertainment. We're talking about Hollywood, the center of entertainment. Like, we got to learn to laugh a little, people. Don't take
you know what,
everything
Nicole?
so seriously.
Those people that have a problem with John Cena, showing off the goods, so to speak, are the same people that want to vote in a liable rapist. So, I mean, it's like, how do you take any of these people seriously, right? I thought Jimmy Kimmel, what would you guys rate Jimmy Kimmel? I thought Jimmy Kimmel did a really good job last night.
Yeah, the reviews came in as positive, just saying he crushed it. He brought lightheartedness. He handled the tough points really well. Like, that is a skill to do that on the spot with all these different political beliefs, different views, different opinions. Ton of criticism you're gonna get on the internet, and he got so much rave and support for his role, which I think is amazing.
And to that point, right, Nicole, the intersection of politics and entertainment, it always seems to come into play, right, when there's these big award shows. And that took place with Jimmy Kimmel. It's interesting Brian just brought that up, right? Because in real time, he goes to his phone and he pulls up a post from the former president of the United States, basically just lambasting Jimmy Kimmel, right? And of course, Kimmel's the kind of guy who wears it like a badge of honor. But this is something, right, Nicole, that's not going away. When it comes to these types of shows, whether it's the Oscars, the Grammys, any type of award show, there's going to be some intersection of entertainment and politics because we're in America, right? And everybody is entitled to have their opinion and their viewpoints across the board.
Sure.
And so this is not something that's going to be going away, is it, Nicole?
No, it's not. And Nicole, I want to bring up another point, which is with Robert Downey Jr., where there was a moment where Jimmy Kimmel made a little joke about his past with his drug use. And I think there's a fine line between doing that. And Robert Downey Jr. didn't seem to have a problem with it at all. I thought it was lighthearted. And Robert Downey Jr. Is doing great, and he's one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. I think there's a difference between that and there's people on the far right that make fun of Joe Biden's son and call him a cokehead, people in office. It's just vile. I didn't think anything Jimmy Kimmel did with Robert Downey Jr. was vile at all. I thought it was lighthearted and it was funny.
Yeah, I only caught little snippets of it, so I can't testify the whole thing, but just from the snippets I saw, seemed lighthearted and playful to me.
Did you have a problem, Chris, with anything that Jimmy Kimmel did last night?
No, the clips, and full disclosure, I didn't watch the whole show,
right,
but the clips I've seen, he was fine, right? I mean, there hasn't been really a complete obliteration of Jimmy as far as how he handled hosting the show. So, I mean, I expect that he'll probably be asked to do it again. He's an ABC figure.
He's already done it multiple times.
He's an ABC late night talk show, so I'm sure that's going to be an opportunity that he'll have again. But yeah, I just had no problem with it whatsoever.
Did you guys have any surprises last night? Anything that anybody that you didn't accept or didn't believe was going to win that did win? Any surprises last night, or you kind of shake your head a little bit? What do you think, guys?
I was impressed, Nicole. I don't know if you saw, but Emma Stone winning, right? I thought that's tremendous.
She's awesome
because she's somebody who is. It's not even the word emerging is the wrong word. She is becoming a monstrous star in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry, and it's not just because of who she is and her personality, and she's a beautiful woman. Yeah, Yeah, we get that. but she is someone who can work in all types of genres. She can do comedy. She can do drama. She is someone who is talented across the board. So I thought that's kind of in a sense, a coronation for her that she got a chance to win an Oscar because it is the highest honor for people in that business.
Yeah. How about you, Nicole? What'd you think?
I'm the least cultured person. You know this, Brian. I don't know most celebrities. I don't know most actors. I don't know most movies. I literally go for the outfits, the host and the jokes, and then I love seeing everyone's feedback and kickback at the end of it. And I found it all very entertaining and beautiful and loved my version of it. What about you, Brian?
As did I. I like Jimmy Kimmel. I'm a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I've met Jimmy Kimmel, and he did some radio in Las Vegas. He went to school here, and he's got a lot of Vegas ties. And I go to his comedy club, Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, all the time. And I love it when I meet him, and I tell him how much I enjoy him ragging on Donald Trump, and he always enjoys that.
He was great in Entourage.
He was. I'm a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I think he's a good guy. He's a decent human being. He's a nice man, and I enjoy it. And, people on the far right, they don't like anybody with a brain that calls them out. Jimmy Kimmel does it on his show almost every night, but he does it in a playful way, and he does it in an enjoyable way, at least for me. And, again, people on the far right don't like him. I'm glad that the Oscars you chose him again. I thought he did a great job yesterday. There wasn't any vile stuff. I thought a few funny Robert De Niro jokes were really good. I'm remembering one Robert De Niro joke that he set up there where he was talking about an actress who I guess now is in her 30s, and then he said, "Unfortunately, you're still a little bit too old now for Robert De Niro." It was a funny cheap shot joke, but I mean, I love Robert De Niro too, and I love Nicole.
I think
Mitchell.
Robert De Niro became a father, right, at 71,
yes, which is pretty mesmerizing.
Which is kind of wild,
mesmerizing. Yeah. Nicole, when are you going to be in Vegas? When does this happen?
2 weekends. I'm so excited.
I can't wait for you to co-host with me. We're going to have a lot of fun.
We're going to have so much fun.
Yes. Well, Nicole, I always appreciate it when you come on. Thank you so much for your perspective. And can't wait to see you in Vegas here in a few weeks, okay?
Have a good Monday, Nicole.
Brian. Good to see you, Chris. Have a great week.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Nicole. Have a good one. Bye. So we have some very interesting guests coming up throughout the week. An attorney by the name of Ed Bernstein. He's one of the most highest profile attorneys, not just in Las Vegas, but in the country. And he's going to give his legal perspective on all of what's going on with Donald Trump. He's going to be joining us in studio on Wednesday. We have a great candidate that's going to be coming in studio tomorrow. And I love speaking to especially women that are running from office, minorities. We need to get more powerful women in office, especially those that are minorities. I think that's great. And we're gonna have that tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to having Erica coming in studio tomorrow. Ed Bernstein on Wednesday. There is a strong possibility. I am trying to get a date. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his people have agreed to do the show, so I already got the green light on it. We're just trying to figure out a time for it. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was in was in Vegas over the weekend. So I definitely, I'm looking forward to that as well. There's always surprises on this show. You never know when Donald Trump is going to call in. I heard a rumor we might get him to call in this week. I don't know. Let me give out my social medias real quick, and then I want Chris to give out his. On my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. It's free. Subscribe to my YouTube page where I put out content, and at least a few times a week I do like overtime, kind of like how Bill Maher does. I do it on my YouTube page, at PTL Radio Show. I'm also on all the social media platforms, including TikTok, Twitch, at PTL Radio Show, and X. Chris, I always appreciate you being here. How can people follow the official liberal of the Pushing the Limits radio show, Chris Wynn?
You can follow me all over social media. I'm on X, formerly Twitter, at Christian Wynn. You can follow me on Instagram at CWin77, at Christian Wynn on Facebook and beyond. And, of course, all over the airwaves here in Las Vegas from both a talk radio and a sports standpoint. Get an opportunity all down the dial to chime in and give my takes. It's been a lot of fun on a Monday.
Yes.
Have a good week, Brian.
Thank you for being here, Chris. And we broke some records today.
What were those records we broke?
We had... This is some great news. We had consistently over 10,000 people watching the show live today on all the social media platforms combined. Over 10,000.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, listen, most Republican shows in this town, they don't even have 10 listeners. So, it's nice. It's nice. Over 10,000 people watching the show live today. I appreciate all of you. We are not going to change what we do. We are going to fight for you. We are going to give you opinions based on fact, and we are going to call out the nut jobs out there that are embarrassing the country. I do it every day. I'm going to continue to do it. Chris is going to be here every week unless he says, Brian, I'm sick of being here. I don't want to be here anymore. But until then, Chris will be here every week as well. And we do appreciate all of you very much. I give out my email on the show. It's my personal email. You can contact me anytime you want. And I appreciate all of you very much, and I'm very interactive with all of you, the listeners, because without all of you and our sponsors, we wouldn't be here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a 12 to 2 p.m. show, live Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We will be here at the same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of your calls. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Did you know that 99% of